Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel, MD, General Physician. Today, in continuity with the clinical side of cardiovascular system examination, we'll be talking about percussion. Again, all my video lectures are for educative purpose. They will be very helpful to second year, third year, and fourth year students, and particularly in the fourth year for your oral exams. And some of the things will be also helpful to you in your clinical side when you do your private practice, and also it will be helpful to you in your theory. So today we'll be talking on what we call as a percussion. All the principle remains nearly same. All the principle remains nearly same. So we'll be talking about percussion in a cardiovascular system. This shows you a direct percussion. So when you percuss directly on a bone, that is clavicle, or on a sternum, it is called direct percussion. And when you use a pleximeter finger, which is in a close contact with the chest wall, we call that as an indirect percussion. So this is indirect percussion, this is also indirect, this is also indirect. So we have discussed all these things also in a respiratory system, also in case of an abdominal system. So there is something called as a direct percussion, something called as an indirect percussion. This can be asked to you in your oral. Now percussion is very important to identify the organ, location of the organ. If there is any mass which you cannot identify as a particular organ, then regarding that particular organ or a mass, you can identify the size, shape, density, whether it is solid or it is liquid or it is containing lot of air, etc. As well as you will be able to identify the tenderness also. Here we are going to talk only on a cardiovascular system, so we'll be talking on only regarding percussion pertaining to the heart. As basic principle, always stand on the right side of the patient. Best way of percussion is in a supine posture. Ask the person to relax. You explain the person the entire procedure, what you are going to do. You are going to percuss and you are looking for the heart. So explain that procedure. And whenever you do a percussion, we call pleximeter finger will be in a close contact with the chest wall. Usually we use the left hand, either index finger or middle finger, and the distal most part of the finger is in a close contact. Rest of the hand is away from the chest wall. The finger should be kept in an intercostal space, not on the bony prominence or on a bone. You start percussing from the first intercostal space down, say on the right side, and you go from lateral to medial to identify the right border of the heart. And when you percuss on the left side, you go from lateral to medial, you are identifying the left border of the heart. And after putting a pleximeter finger, you are using a percussing finger, either index finger or a middle finger of right hand, and a jerk is given one or two at a time, and that is by movement at the wrist. All the jerks should be of the same force. Whenever you want to do a deep percussion, then only the jerk should be with a little extra force. And always percuss from lateral to medial, that is we call from resonant area towards the dull area. So you can identify the border of the heart much better. And you should be aware of the anatomical landmarks. So in a second intercostal space in a normal person, when you percuss, that is on the right side, it is aortic area. In a normal person, it is a resonant note. Same way on the left side, which is a pulmonary area, which is again a resonant note. So if anything is abnormal in that space, second intercostal space, it is, if you get an impaired note or a dull note, it is abnormal. And while doing a percussion, you should be keeping complete silence in the room. There should be no extra sound produced by either a fan or a AC or a electronic instruments, your mobile, etc. All this should be avoided because it can interfere with your auscultation of a percussion sound. So we have already mentioned that this is pleximeter finger, this is a percussing finger. And you go from lateral to medial, you go from lateral to medial and identify the borders. This is percussion on anterior surface of the chest. And what we are percussing for the heart is mainly on the anterior surface of the chest to identify the right border, left border. The inferior border we cannot identify because of presence of a lever. It is difficult to separate the lever dullness from cardiac dullness. So inferior border you cannot identify. In a second intercostal space, in a normal person, in an aortic area and pulmonary area on the left side, always you get a resonant note. So if you get a dull note in that area, it is abnormal. So always go from the first intercostal space down and from lateral to medial, that is from resonant area to the dull area, and identify the right border and left border. And this is the best technique to identify the borders of the heart. And after identifying the borders of the heart, you can mention regarding whether the heart is enlarged, which chamber is possibly enlarged, etc. So I am keeping this particular diagram and I'll be explaining you that particular part. So when you percuss from above downwards and from lateral to medial, you will be able to identify the right border. Say this is a second intercostal space on the right side, which is an aortic area. Normal person, you get a resonant note. If you get a dull note, again, the most important condition which produces a dull note is aortic root dilatation and arch of aorta aneurysm. These two conditions will produce dilatation of aorta or increase area of dullness in an aortic area. Also, sometimes you come across an aneurysm of ascending aorta, which can also produce a dull note, increase area of dullness in a second intercostal space. This will be related to the heart, and if there is a massive fluid collection, that is because a massive pericardial effusion in pericardial sac, that can produce an increased area of dullness in right side second intercostal space. So do remember that pericardial effusion can produce a dullness in second intercostal space, and you can demonstrate shifting dullness. So that will be regarding the right side border in second intercostal space. The rest of the right side border is just nearly parallel to the right sternal border. If you get increased area of dullness on the right side, one, either because of the shift of mediastinum, which is shifting the heart towards the right side, so the normal cardiac dullness is more towards the right side. Second, in case of dextrocardia, when the heart is entirely malpositioned on the right side, it is mal rotated. So second condition which can produce increased area of dullness on the right side, which is because of the heart is mal rotated, and we label that as a dextrocardia. And depending upon the position in abdomen regarding the organs, we call dextrocardia with situs inversus, situs soleus and ambiguous. These are the three words utilized. We'll be discussing in detail in a chapter of dextrocardia. Third condition which can produce an increased area of dullness on the right side is because of the enlargement of the different chambers, particularly the right atrium. So if there is an increased area of dullness on the right side, it is mainly because of right atrium. So if the right atrium is massively enlarged, say in case of tricuspid stenosis, tricuspid regurgitation, Epstein anomaly, ASD, you will have a right atrium being very big, and that will produce increased area of dullness on the right side. Also, sometimes you can have a little increased area of dullness on the right side, maybe because of right ventricular hypertrophy. So, if right border is enlarged, one, right atrial enlargement, second, right ventricular hypertrophy. As far as heart is concerned, as far as pericardial sac is concerned, pericardial effusion. So, in pericardial effusion, there will be increased area of dullness on the right side, as well as there will be increased area of dullness in a right side second intercostal space, that is we call aortic area. So, this will be the conditions which will be related to increased area of dullness on the right side, and we have also mentioned because of the shift of mediastinum towards the right, either because of the pull condition on the right or push condition from the left side. So we have discussed enough time regarding the pull and push, and those are related to what we call as mainly related to lung pathophysiology and pleural pathophysiology. So I am not repeating again here, but it can be asked very frequently in your oral. So do remember all those conditions, and along with shift of mediastinum there will be a shift of trachea also. So that is very commonly asked in your oral. So that will be regarding a right border of the heart. Regarding the left border of the heart, in second intercostal space it is a pulmonary area. So if you get a increased area of dullness in a pulmonary area, it is abnormal. In a normal person, usually we don't demonstrate any dullness in that area. So if you demonstrate the area of dullness, and if there is an increased area of dullness in a left side second intercostal space, it may be because of pulmonary hypertension, pulmonary artery aneurysm, massive pericardial effusion, which can produce a dullness in left side second intercostal space. And also you can demonstrate sometime increased area of dullness because of what we call as a big left atrium. If the left atrium is massively enlarged, you can have an increased area of dullness sometime demonstrable in left side second intercostal space. If the left border is enlarged, meaning in a normal person the apex will be just inside the midclavicular line in a fourth or fifth intercostal space. So if you get the area of cardiac dullness outside the midclavicular line or below fifth intercostal space, that is downwards, and outside the midclavicular line, that is outwards. So if there is an increased area of dullness outwards and downwards, it indicates cardiomegaly, and the most common cause of cardiomegaly is because of left ventricular hypertrophy. So if the person has got a left ventricular hypertrophy, it will produce increased area of dullness on the left side. And if there is a massive increase in area of a dullness on the left side, it will be because of the huge cardiomegaly, we call dilatation plus hypertrophy, which is very classical because of a secondary to valvular heart disease like MR and AR. So in that condition, you will have a dilatation plus hypertrophy, as well as there is condition which is called dilated cardiomyopathy, which can be congenital conditions. We call dilated cardiomyopathy, where there is a big enlargement, dilatation of a left ventricle. So this will be the two conditions which can produce a very big heart, or we can call that increase area of marked increase in area of dullness on the left side. So the apex will be downwards and outwards. Now, if you can palpate the apical impulse very nicely, which is downwards and outwards, this will be the two conditions. But if you get an increased area of dullness, which is grossly downwards and outwards, and apical impulse is not palpable, and if the type of a dullness is more in favor of stony dull, it is because of the massive pericardial effusion. So in a massive pericardial effusion, we combine together. There will be increased area of dullness in aortic area, increased area of dullness in the pulmonary area, that is a right second intercostal space and left second intercostal space respectively. There will be marked increase in area of dullness on the right side, as well as there will be marked increase in area of dullness on the left side, and the shape of this dullness looks like a flash shape, and the dullness is stony dull. It is more in favor of a massive pericardial effusion. And over this particular, you can demonstrate what we call as a shifting dullness. I'll explain at this stage only. Whenever you want to demonstrate a shifting dullness, you do a percussion in a second intercostal space, identify the dullness in a second intercostal space in supine posture, hold your finger in the second intercostal space. Now ask the person to sit. After 1 or 2 minutes, now you percuss in the second intercostal space. If the area of dullness decreases, and now you ask the person to go into supine posture back, wait for 1 or 2 minutes and now percuss again. If the area of dullness increases, this is called shifting dullness because the fluid will shift due to gravity. So in a sitting posture, the fluid will be gravitating back to the lowermost part, that is inferior, and you will have a decreased area of dullness in aortic or pulmonary area. And when a person goes to supine posture, gravity is not working, the fluid will go more to the base, or what we call as close to the aorta or pulmonary artery, and that will produce increased area of dullness, and this is described as a shifting dullness. By and large, we don't come across hydropneumopericardium, but after a pericardiocentesis you can come across that. In that case also you can demonstrate a shifting dullness. Out of way, don't utter that word in your exams. And then we always look at the trop space. We have already mentioned the trop space. The medial border is by the cardiac dullness, lateral border is by the splenic dullness, the superior border is by the normal lung resonance, and inferior border is by the costal margin, left costal margin. And this is the area which is having a tympanic note because of the air present in the fundus part of the stomach. If any condition which increases the area of dullness on the left side, that is, we have already mentioned a cardiomegaly because of the valvular heart disease like MR and AR, that is mitral regurgitation and aortic regurgitation, or because of the massive pericardial effusion, or because of dilated cardiomyopathy. This dullness will encroach onto the trop space, and trop space will be reduced or maybe even absent, or may be very difficult to demonstrate the trop space. So do remember, cardiac pathophysiology can alter the trop space, and this is very commonly asked in your oral. Demonstrate the trop space and what are the conditions which will interfere with your trop space, or what are the conditions which will have alteration in the trop space, etc. is being very frequently asked. And I have already discussed this particular part in percussion in respiratory system as well as in alimentary system. But it is also asked in cardiovascular also. So do remember this. Now we are going through some of those slides. So this is the normal area of dullness. So this is the right sternal border. So right border is just parallel to the sternum, right border of the sternum, and left is starting from the second intercostal space up to the apex, and apex is normally in the fourth or fifth intercostal space, just inside the midclavicular line. If you consider this as a midclavicular line, this is just inside the midclavicular line. If it goes grossly outside the midclavicular line, it is cardiomegaly. And if it is downwards and outwards, LVH. If it is just outside the midclavicular line, RVH. And then I've given you the conditions which produces a massive cardiomegaly. So do remember, these are all the questions which are very frequently asked, and they will ask the difference between pericardial effusion dullness and dullness because of cardiomegaly. I've given two important differences. In cardiomegaly, the dullness will never be stony dull. It will be a dull note, and at the apex you will get a pulsation we call apical impulse, and that apex will be grossly downwards and outwards. While in case of massive pericardial effusion, the apical impulse will be very difficult to locate. It will be increased area of dullness, but apical impulse will not be locable. And when you do a percussion, because of the presence of large quantity of fluid, it gives rise to stony dull. So do remember this too. It will be very commonly asked to you in your oral. And I have mentioned regarding what we call as area of dullness in the right second intercostal space, that is aortic area, and area of dullness in a left second intercostal space, that is pulmonary area. So do remember that. So right border, right atrial enlargement, right ventricular hypertrophy, or pericardial effusion, and left border because of the left, we have already mentioned, that is because of pericardial effusion, LVH, then LV dilatation and massive pericardial effusion. We have explained that particular part. So this will be some of the things which will be very frequently asked. We have also mentioned regarding an increased area of dullness in the left side second intercostal space because of pericardial effusion, pulmonary hypertension, pulmonary artery aneurysm, occasionally arch of aorta aneurysm, and if there is a very big LA. And in aortic area, arch of aorta aneurysm, root dilatation, ascending aorta aneurysm, massive pericardial effusion. So in those conditions, and I have explained you what will be the findings in case of a pericardial effusion. You will have a bottle shaped heart or a flask shape. Right side also area will be increased, left side area also will be increased, and it will be stony dull, and you will be also able to demonstrate what we call as a shifting dullness. So whenever you get increased area of dullness in pulmonary area, aortic area, right border is also massively enlarged, left border is also enlarged, do suspect pericardial effusion. It is described as pear shape, bottle shape, flask shape. You will demonstrate shifting dullness. There will be stony dull. And if you can demonstrate the apical impulse, you will be also able to demonstrate dullness outside the apical impulse. This is rather very difficult because apical impulse is usually not palpable. So if you get all these findings, it is in favor of pericardial effusion. And if you get dilated cardiomyopathy, big LVH, because of AR and MR, then in that case, apical impulse and dullness will correlate. There will be no dullness outside the apical impulse, and dullness will be normal dullness, not stony dull. So cardiac dullness may be reduced because of constrictive pericarditis. It may be overlapped by emphysematous chest, left side pneumothorax. You will not be able to demonstrate the cardiac dullness very clearly in case of obesity, or your technique is wrong, you are not able to demonstrate properly, or if the mediastinum is grossly shifted to the right side. In all these conditions, the area of cardiac dullness on the left side will be reduced. Do remember this. This is also one thing where it can be asked in your oral, in which condition the area of cardiac dullness will be reduced. And if heart is on the right side, we call as a malrotation, we call dextrocardia. In that condition, the cardiac dullness will be on the right side rather than on left side. And I have already mentioned regarding a trop space. In case of pericardial effusion, LV, dilatation plus hypertrophy, and dilated cardiomyopathy will have increased area of dullness which will encroach onto the trop space, and trop space will be difficult to demonstrate, or trop space area will reduce. We already mentioned upper border is lung, right border is what we call as mainly by the cardiac dullness, left border is because of spleen, and lower border is left costal margin. So do remember these four borders, and if this area becomes small and the area of cardiac dullness is very big, it is because of pericardial effusion, or because of dilated cardiomyopathy, or because of valvular heart disease like MR and AR. To demonstrate the spleen dullness, you can utilize Castle sign. We have described that particular in percussion in case of alimentary system examination. So do remember, this is very frequently asked to you in your oral regarding a trop space. So trop space can be asked in alimentary system, in respiratory system, as well as cardiovascular system percussion. We have discussed in detail almost everything regarding all the pathophysiology which can increase the area of dullness, over the trop space, or trop space is replaced by dullness instead of tympanic note. We have demonstrated all those conditions in respiratory system, in alimentary system. So I'm not repeating all those things. So please go through all these slides at your leisure time, and keeping for some time. You can have a pause and you can go through. Very frequently ask in your oral. So trop space is very, very important. Very frequently ask in your oral. Go through your at leisure time. So here I end my lecture on percussion. Very, very important chapter in your oral exam, as well as sometime in theory also it will be helpful. If you like this lecture, you can press button like, subscribe, and you can share with your friends. So at the end of this lecture, I thank you all for taking out time. I know that your time is valuable, and I appreciate you for spending some of the time with me. So see you in next lecture, that is on auscultation, which is also very, very important. So I end my lecture here. See you in next lecture.